Good evening and hello again, you sick, twisted weather freaks. This is another fun-filled, action-packed, and intellectually stimulating edition of This Week in Weather. I'm your host and all-around evil meteorologist, DT from weatherist.com. And here we're going to talk about some interesting synoptic weather and the weather patterns over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And some other important weather questions of the day, mainly dealing with weather over North America. And it's a Sunday evening. It's 10 o'clock already. A lot to say. I've made a lot of slides here, so hopefully I won't go over my time limit. Let's get right to it. We'll be talking about a couple of different things here. First, we're talking about the Plains, the Great Lakes low here, December 15th to 16th. The Ohio Valley major event and the East Coast big rain event coming for the 18th and 19th. The crappy weather pattern for the eastern U.S. and whether or not the issue of is this entire winter already in the crapper? In other words, is it going to be like next winter? This is the current surface map from Sunday afternoon, and we can see that the first big low here is already in the Ohio Valley. And notice you see the warm front right along this area here. A lot of warm temperatures coming up this area tomorrow. And this is the big system which brought the heavy snow to Minnesota, Wisconsin over the past 24 hours. And now behind this front, there's some cold air coming in, but not a lot. And this low, of course, is going to track up this way, and it's going to drag the cold front with it. But there's not. This is mostly Pacific air all up in here, not very cold air for mid-December at all. All right, our next slide will show us what this looks like. This is the European model for tomorrow morning. There's the low up in here. We can clearly see it centered right up in this area here. Here's the cold front right like there. A lot of cold air coming in behind it, but you'll see the cold air rapidly pulls out over the next 48 hours as the next system's already coming in from the West Coast. So even here, the cold air doesn't last very long. Now this is the first system coming up, the one for December 15th to 16th. Here's the Plains low. Look how warm it is, folks. I mean, this is some really warm temperatures here. And again, we want to point out where the rain snow line is. The rain snow line is here, right along where the blue and the green meet, actually over through this area as well. So this is all rain up in here. It's all too warm for rain. A lot of cold air up in here, but this high is going bye-bye, and nothing but warm temperatures for everybody. Cursed be its name. And now this is the European ensemble, also for the 15th. It's a little colder than the operational run, where I suppose is more promising for the upper plains. Of course, they have a lot of big drought up in here, so they could use the snow. So this could be a big snowstorm for the Dakotas and Minnesota, but it's rain for Iowa, it's rain for Chicago, rain for Wisconsin, rain. And there's the front like that. So no surprise there. Next slide. Now here's the operational European here. This is for, I guess, the 16th of December, and we can see the low is now up in this area, right up in here in Michigan. And it's probably snowing all up in here, but this is a lot of warm temperatures coming up this way again. So next weekend, more warm temperatures up and down the East Coast, down to the Gulf Coast as well, and the Ohio Valley. Not off to a good start with this winter at all. Many are just thinking, oh my God, is it ever going to end? Here's the European ensemble valid for the I guess it would be for Sunday the 16th. Right here you can see it. And again, now the European ensemble is a little colder, so it has the low here, and it actually applies a triple point right in here. But this is all rain, folks, all up in here, even in the mountains. This is way too warm for anybody to make snow for any of the ski operations through mid-December. This is turning out to be very bad for these people here. They got crushed last year, and they're not off to a great start here. All the cold air way up here in Canada. Look at this stuff. This is not very cold air for mid-December at all. Now here's the European model here for the big system for the 18th. Look at this baby. This thing is cranking up down in here. Good googly moogly. The rain snow line is up through here, just south of Chicago, then up to Poughkeepsie, and then down to this way. This is lots of severe weather up in this area, up in here. Heavy rain, warm temperatures. All the serious cold air is up in here, and this system is going to go north of Albany probably. And we'll see that in just a second. And I know the 0Z GFS on Sunday morning tried to have it to the East Coast. That's a bullshit solution, folks. Not going to happen, not in this pattern. We'll discuss that in a second. Don't get excited. Remember, the south and east bias of the GFS, which a lot of times winter storms will have it moving off the East Coast, doesn't disappear because it suddenly gives you an ideal track. The model always has problems with East Coast storms. So, of course, the GFS is going to have the system the GFS is going to have the system right over here, but it's not. It's over here, folks. This is where it's going to be. All right, the next slide here. This is for now for day. This is the European ensemble for this 18th, and the low is here. And this is a little further to the south and east, but it's still. If the ensemble's arguing a big snowstorm for Chicago and Iowa, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, maybe northwest Nebraska as well, and the lows like this. There's the triple point. Excuse me, the triple points there, right in here. So this is all way too warm for anything but rain. So if we're going to stop, and there's the European model for the morning of the 19th. Good googly moogly. Not only is, of course, is this a weekday storm, so that's one reason why it's not a snowstorm for the East Coast, because it's on a Wednesday. Most of the big snowstorms have always occurred on the weekend. But the other reason is that we can see the low was way up in here. Look at this, and look at the warm air surging all the way up into Pittsburgh and Buffalo and Boston. This is some warm stuff. Severe weather is possible all up and down this front, and then the cold air gets pulled in behind it. And again, not that much cold air. Most of the severe cold air is still stuck up in here. So even when you get cold air, it's not getting pulled into these systems. I mean, dag, what a bad pattern. All right, let's take a look why this cannot be an East Coast storm. This cannot be an East Coast storm. First, let me point these features out so you can see them very nicely. First, we can see, close up here, the low here is neutrally tilted already by Texas, west of Texas, way too far to the west. That means it's going to go negative over here. That's a bad sign for the East Coast. Big southeast ridge here. No ridge on the west coast. We've got a trough coming in here. So you have no ridge. There's no 50-50 low at all. This is out in the Atlantic Ocean. This does not count. And the NAO is probably positive at this point, or neutral. So all these features against you. No warm air, no flow of cold air coming into the country on the west coast, no 50-50 low. The system goes neutral way too far to the west. Just a horrible, awful overall pattern. And now, some of you are going to be saying, but maybe the models could shift to the East Coast. Okay, if you're asking that question, you are asking the wrong question. Models do not shift the storm. Okay? The storm does what it's going to do. The model reflects what's going on in the atmosphere. Okay? Low pressure areas are not people. They don't look at models. They don't go, I better go to the East Coast because the GFS is showing it. It doesn't work that way. Really, folks. Got to keep that in mind. All right, this is the European and the European model here on the left-hand side and the GFS on the right-hand side. Look at this vortex. Way up here in eastern Siberia. The NAO, remember, it's supposed to be over here. Look where it is now. This block is up here. There's a little bit of positive height anomaly in Greenland, but this thing is way back here in Siberia, in Scandinavia, folks. There's a little bit of height anomaly. This is not really negative NAO. Don't believe it. This is not enough to make a difference. And then the main issue is this howling Pacific jet crashing into the west coast across the northern Pacific. The big trough here on the west coast, big trough on the west coast. This is a terrible pattern. Now, one of the things that's a surprise so far this winter is why that Pacific jet is so strong. And we're going to deal with that now. So as I go on to the next slide, we can see some other features here. This is, again, some of the ensemble long-range forecasts for the different indices. We can see here for the P&A, this is the PSD and GFS, both for the GFS model. They're both way down, as you can see, way down. So this constantly means West Coast trough up in here. That's what this is, West Coast trough in this area. Let me change, yeah. And now for the NAO, as you can see, all of them are again showing way negative numbers in here. So this is, West Coast trough. That's what this is, West Coast trough. And here's very barely negative NAO, but most of it's not really, because it's really a Scandinavian block. So this is a little deceptive here. And then for the other features here, this is our EPO. It's way positive up in here, as you can see. Let me change this. Way positive up in here. And what does that mean? That means a trough on the west coast and a low over Alaska. So this is very bad for getting cold weather in the eastern United States. All right, next slide. Now, this is the day 10 map for the European. And what do we have here? Oh, this is bad. This is bad. The vortex is back here in Siberia. There's nothing in the United States or North America at all. No vortex in North America. The block, the ridge, is not over Greenland. It's back over Scandinavia. This is a Scandinavian block. And we have a howling Pacific jet slamming into the west coast with a negative P and A. Bad pattern. Okay. And now comparing this to what we saw last winter, this is a little different, but again, look, this is from last winter. Now this first map on the left-hand side is from January. The second map is from late January. So we can see here that both these maps show this huge low over Alaska and the Bering Sea. And that's to some degree, that's a little bit what we're seeing here, except this is over further to the west. So it's not quite that bad, but this is a little similar to what we saw last year. And this has a lot of people spooked. Is the winter going to be like last year? Now, this is a map of what a good winter looks like. This is from January 2011. And let me highlight some features here. Here's a block over Greenland. There's our ridge on the west coast. There's a deep trough over the eastern United States. So this is a great snowstorm pattern. This is a great winter pattern. That's not what we're seeing here at all. Let me change this so you can see that's the difference between that and that. That and that. Totally different. You know, here you got the upper low here. Here you have a west coast ridge. All right. So next slide.